Hey guys, welcome back to Choices Not Chances. Got another good one for you today. We've been trying to put this episode together for like over a year, maybe like closer to the 2 years. But you guys know when I talk about the gunners that I looked up to, it's always LaRose, Nick Vitale, and Gunner Knight. And the reason that I looked up to these people as a sergeant coming up was because I had an authority problem. Is probably the answer there. And these Marines had made it all the way through their careers advocating for the NCOs and the hitters in the line. And sometimes when you advocate for the hitters in the line, it's not received well at the level of politics and the level of where money gets spent. And, you know, because of that, these guys, you know, sometimes in spite of getting in trouble or in spite of somebody not liking their opinion, these guys would still give sound opinions that absolutely advocated to the line. So that's the people that I looked up to as far as, you know, the gunners in the community that I looked up to. And so I've already had LaRose. Now I have JC Knight for a little bit, and then we'll get Vitale eventually.
Yeah.
But JC Knight, thanks for
right.
making the time again. I know the first time he showed up, had a coffee for me, and I had holes in my tongue and was lethargic from a seizure that I had just come out of. So it was like, you know, is a bad morning, but I appreciate you making more time again.
Good to see you upright and vertical, man.
Yeah. It's nice to not have holes in my face.
Right.
But
no, crazy story. At the very start of my Marine Corps life, my senior year, Mom was druggy, rough life, right? Had a real bad live-in boyfriend, total piece of shit. And I got thrown out. I had to live in Richmond, Virginia. I hated Richmond. But coming up in a rough life, I was like, okay, what is the hardest thing that I can do to kind of cleanse myself and give me a chance in this world? Where do I go to be part of something bigger than myself? Went to the recruiter station. And Sergeant Nick Vitale.
oh, no way.
No, yes way, was one of the recruiters there. And I had a recruiter, and she had me lined up to be a legal clerk.
Oh, boy.
And God bless all you legal clerks. It just probably wouldn't have been the right walk of life for me.
Nah.
And I'd see Vitale out there, you know, valor device, you know, real quick-witted,
Yeah.
you know, opinionated, right? Sergeant. And I'm like, Sergeant Vitale, I really don't want to be a legal clerk. I want to be an infantryman. And he's like, hey, Perkins, hey, night belongs to me now, and I'm giving you Joe Bob. We're going to do a flip-flop. And Nick ended up getting me to be an infantryman. And years go on. He pinned sergeant on me when we both worked at the School of Infantry. And I was kind of like his gunner Padawan.
Yeah.
So when it's time for me to be a gunner, Nick gave me a letter. Nick always looked out for me. Nick taught me, and to be quite honest, I took a big piece of Nick in how you advocate for things. And I think it's important, maybe for the viewer and just for everybody. I've always looked at it this way, and this resonates with where I am in my life now. A lot of people say, man, you get emotional about stuff when you talk about it. I'm like, no, time out, man. I get passionate about the things that I talk about. Because if I'm going to open my mouth about it, I'm going to know what I'm talking about. And learned a lot of that from Nick. And Nick was so good at that because the way he could articulate a problem, it came from a place of passion, and it came from a place of fact. And when you come at something from that direction, chances are you're going to get your point across and you're going to win. Yeah. So there's my story on Nick.
Yeah, Nick, one of the good ones.
Yeah.
When I was in Marine Combat Instructor Course, he came in there like multiple times to like tell us how shitty we were.
Right.
Give us one of those, you know,
Yeah.
keep us on our toes. And I had, you know, known of him before that, but having, you know, like interaction with him,
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, this guy's intense. But it's passion. It's not hate-driven or malevolent. It's you need to get this right or people die kind of passion.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated that. So
yeah. I tell Nick all the time when we talk, I'm like, I owe you such a debt. Yeah, I can never pay it back. And of course, he always, like most Marine leaders, he always downplay. No, you don't owe me shit. You know, I'm like, nah, I do. So to think, rough life, RSS Richmond, he takes me from being and then he ends up being my, my guy that helps me become a gunner. I mean, It's great. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
It's crazy. So yeah, love me some Nick.
Good dude. All right, well, let's go back to the beginning before we get to the Marine Corps. Kind of tell me, like where you come from, and you already said a little bit about who you come from, but let's go like year 1 to 12, what life is like.
Yeah, I think it started out okay. Grew up in a small town in West Virginia, a little place called Tyler Mountain, about 15 minutes outside of Charleston. And had a mom that was 18, dad that was 28. Dad was a Vietnam vet. Really weird. Come to find later in life, a lot of his stories were BS. Mm-hmm. So he lied about a lot of his. Vietnam vet. So definitely saw some of the PTSD, but lifelong drug abuser. Angry, short dude. I'm not hating on short people. I'm just painting a picture. But just not a cool, good dude. And it was very hard when I got thrown out later. When I was about 18, got thrown. I had to live in Richmond. I had to live with him and lived in a nice big house and all that good stuff. But still, the root of who he was still there, and I couldn't get away from him fast enough. And it was interesting when he passed in 17. I got his DD-214 and had to get him buried and everything. And he had lied about what he actually done in the Marine Corps. I was an infantry guy. I was this, and this, and he was a PX guy. And it's like, man, why? Just for anybody that's out there listening, I don't care if you were, in the Coast Guard marching band. Be proud of your service and just tell the truth about it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to bullshit anybody. So, his parents ended up getting divorced, like a lot of people do. Mom and dad both went their ways. Pills, weed, which isn't a big deal. No. But a number of other things, abused alcohol, and then just
both of them.
Both of them constantly bickering and fight. They were just angry people, and it was tough growing up around that.
Do you know why? Do you know where that anger came from for them?
A little.
Just rough life or parents?
I've heard stories about my dad that before he went to Vietnam, he was the nicest guy on the planet. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe so. Right? But I never got to see really that side of him. There was always a selfish catch, and it was always substance. Substances were more important than personal relationships, but always angry, always pissed off. Mother was the middle child of like 5 kids, and she got put up for adoption. So she didn't get raised with her siblings, and so I think that caused some issue with her. But she was spoiled by a much older couple, which were kind of like they were my grandparents, essentially. Mm-hmm. And she was a mess. She was just spoiled. And then when money started to dry up because she'd had so many DUIs and had so many run-ins with the law, money just started drying up, and it's just she's always angry. She never had to stand up on her own 2 feet and become an adult. Just always a lot of anger issues, alcohol, pills, that type of thing. And I remember growing up and missing a lot of school because she would come in, and it became a joke when I was a teenager, but when I was younger, here I am 6, 7 years old with a 2 or 3 year old brother, and there's nobody, or let's say 8 or 9, 3 or 4 year old brother. My little brother's 5 years younger than me. And waking up and there's no adult in the house. Mm-hmm. And then your mom comes in right after last call at about 3:15, 3:20 in the morning, waking you up saying, go get me something to drink. Yeah. Make me a sandwich. And that kind of happens from 8 years old all the way till I'm 17, right? Kids don't deserve that shit.
No.
But you just do it, right?
Yeah.
So, you kind of get through that. So it was rough. So blood has really never meant much to me, but I always had reference points. Like, my buddies across the street, their dad was always cool, always business, always holding it down. Right, or I'd see this guy was a good example, or I'd learn a lot from my buddies, and I would kind of learn from them. I'd get in my own fights, try to handle my own problems. Got bullied a little bit, but I wouldn't trade any of that upbringing for anything. I had to just stand on my own for myself, probably more times than a kid should, but I think sitting here at 48 years old, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. I'm glad I wasn't sheltered. I'm glad I had learned how to scramble a fucking egg at 6 years old because my mom wouldn't do it for me. Mm-hmm. Right? Grateful for all of those experiences. So.
Yeah, I would echo that. No child deserves that. They didn't ask to be in the situation that they're put in. Right. But man, parenthood's hard, right? And I'm not making excuses for anybody. Mm-hmm. I'm not abusing things. I'm not bad to my children, but it's the hardest job that I've ever had.
Yeah,
from the emotions to the, discipline versus friend, and not, watching your kids get bullied at school and trying to work that out, which is new for me, and it's not my boy, so it's different. It's my girls, so it's
Right.
but yeah, and as I get older as a father, I look back at my parents and where they were, and I'm like, how the fuck did you do it? How did you guys do this good, as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
with no money and tiny little duplex, and then later a little house, you know what I mean? And they had 4 of us, and now my dad has 8 of us.
Man, Pop's laying pipe.
Oh, dude,
Pop's
his
Pop's
whole
busy
damn
man.
life. His whole
Good
damn life.
Lord.
Yeah, his whole damn life. He didn't never turn the faucet off. But,
Yeah, man.
yeah, I was coming home from Iraq learning about new siblings that were cooking in the oven. And then I was coming home, every time I came home, there was another one.
Jesus Christ, old man.
DJ Khaled. Yeah, that's what I told him. Our kids are going to go to school together if you don't stop. And and now I have a 12-year-old going to middle school, and I have 3 siblings in high school.
Right.
So it was real close.
Damn.
But yeah, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. And if there's anything I would say about the tough upbringing from all the different people that I've recorded, they, in their adult life, and probably even before their adulthood, but in their adult life, they are some of the most resilient people that I've interviewed. Yeah. And it's like, that makes sense. They had to be resilient from a young age. They had to cook their own eggs. They had to get in their own fights, just like you're talking about. And so if you do that young, as you come into adulthood, where other people that had a healthy upbringing and decent leadership, they haven't really met too much adversity, because a lot of it was buffered by their parents, whereas these other people in your case had to deal with that shit on your own. So you build that resilience.
And I see a lot of the guys that the people that let's just call it a normal upbringing that maybe I grew up with, and it feels like they're content. Some of those folks are content with a plateau. Like, this is it. I live the American dream: 3-bedroom, 2-bath, brick rancher, boom, whatever. Work my job, do whatever. Settle. I've always been, okay, what's in the realm of possible, right? And always trying to find a way to always trying to find a way to level up. And I remember had a pretty life-changing moment, and this stuck with me, and I try to share it with guys that have been bullied or came up rough or bad. Or we had a local bully where I grew up, and I'll never forget, this is right before I got thrown out and had to go live in Richmond. One of my last moments in West Virginia before I moved to Virginia. Local bully came up over the mountain and wanted to fight me. First, his little brother wanted to fight me. There was like a couple-year difference between them. And we were playing sandlot football, sandlot basketball, I forget which one we were doing. But old boy shows up. Not only does he show up, he brings 4 carloads of his uncles, guys like our age. Good. Great. Well, all my buddies but the local fat kid all haul ass. They run. The fat kid just sits on the bench. And I'm like, one of my buddies that wasn't there, he said, man, you've just got to stop running. He goes, it's going to hurt. But this guy was my age, right? My buddy Sean. And he said, man, just stop running, stand your ground. I picked a hell of a day to do it. Dude showed up with guys in their 30s and their 40s. Big beards, right? It's scary. We're scary looking when we... Well, if we were to look at... Some kid was 17 or 18 and looks at you and be like, I'm not going in that garage. There's a Harley, a rocket launcher. There's all this crazy stuff. I don't want nothing to do with these guys. But the dad got out, and just picture mountain redneck man, right? 6 foot, the big dude, 6'4", beard, got a big beard. He goes, I'm going to let the big one jump on you and wear you down, then I'm going to let the little one have you. And here came the big one, and I whooped his fucking ass. Oh, and, I got up off of him, and I just looked, and he didn't want to send the younger one after me.
Yeah, I bet not.
And it's like, okay, I'll take this as a W. And
none of the uncles jumped on you?
None of them jumped on me.
Well, good.
And I walked away, and what a liberating,
I bet,
life-changing experience. Yeah. And I share that with people that are in my life now. I see people, from all different walks of life that live near me locally, and they talk about, oh man, I've always been bullied or picked on. I'm like, look, man, take up for yourself. And I think I became a man before I went to boot camp by virtue of that experience. But going to boot camp just simply molded you into a better version of you, right? So, for sure. So that was a big moment in my life. So, yeah.
Did you play sports coming up at all?
I played football when I could.
You hunted, I assume?
Yeah, a little bit. Wasn't very good at it.
Okay.
Wasn't very good at it. But again, no support, right? My dad wasn't an outdoorsman.
Yeah.
He'd rather be pills, cocaine, or smoking weed than be an outdoor guy. So, but it's funny now here in my later life, everything that I wanted to do, like play guitar with a band.
You're doing it all as an adult?
Do it all as an adult, man. And people are like, wow, why didn't you start this earlier, or this, that, and the other? It's nice when you're in your 40s and you get to, things are fresh to you, right? Like, you know, so I'm glad that I have new experiences. So I get plenty of that now.
Yeah.
So
no, that's awesome.
you get it when you can, man.
Yeah.
You get it when you can. So
yeah,
I'm grateful.
So big fight, is that the catalyst to you getting kicked out?
Of my mom's?
Yeah.
No, not at all. It was just guys in and out of the house, and she found the creme de la creme of bad hillbilly white trash to shack up with, and she just wanted him there more than me. And I remember I said, hey, I said, anything but him. I'm begging you. And now at this point, I'd already been on probation, had been in trouble for being just a stupid teenage kid, but I'd come out of that. I was exercising, lifting weights, trying to play football, you know, trying to do the right thing, and I was becoming a man, right? And I'm like, you know, you're like, fuck. I'm like, and my mom's all messed up. I'm like, anything but him. She chose him. She chose him, and it was disappointing. So
You just left?
No, she threw me out.
Oh.
She threw me out. Get your shit. You're leaving. And off to Richmond, Virginia I go. Land of Volvo wagons and Dave Matthews Band and fake, fraudulent, wannabe rich kids. It was terrible. Worst year of my life. I'd rather be in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you only have to do a year there before you can go in the Marine Corps, though.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
at least.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't,
Again, fate, right? Had I not been thrown out, had I not
went to Richmond,
Virginia, I would have not met Sergeant Nick Vitale. I would have not become an infantryman. I would have not been a United States Marine. Wow. Right?
Wild.
Right, man. So
isn't it wild how that shit happens?
So grateful, man. I can't even put it into words.
It's so confusing going through life. I heard somebody say this the other day, and I don't let me mess his quote up, but he said going through life makes no sense, but when you look at your life backwards, everything makes sense.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that as I get older.
Me too.
And yeah, and then all through boot camp.
Now let me ask one more question, please.
Sure.
And we'll come back to it. But how do you have a relationship with your mother and father now?
No. I remember it was right before I went to Habbiniyah.
Okay.
In 07.
3-2.
3-6.
Oh, 3-6.
3-6.
Yep. Okay.
Sniper Platoon Sergeant. I was going home on block leave, and I was on my way back, and my aunt called me. And I'm like, what's up? I was in Mount Airy, coming from West Virginia back down to Lejeune. Yeah. We were flying out in 4 to 5 days, and my mom passed, 49 years old. Yeah, a year older than me. And heart failure, found her in the kitchen, still with old boy, right? Still with old boy, living at his mother's rental house, because the house that she had inherited, he had burned it down. Drug-fueled anger burned her fucking house down, right? If I'm lying, I'm dying. And she passed. So I had to turn around, drive back to West Virginia, and this is my third deployment, third kinetic deployment as a platoon sergeant that I'm getting ready to go into, and I've got to stop and go back and pay for a funeral and put my mom in the ground. So 49 years old, that was winter of 06, so about 18 years ago. And back in those days, like, oh man, you're staff sergeant or gunny, you make good money. Staff sergeants and gunnies don't make good fucking money.
I don't think
and
they ever did.
I don't think they ever did, and they probably don't now. It's a shame. Should make a hell of a lot more, right? So I go out there and get that done, and then so she passed in 06, and then off to war. And then 17, right before I retired, my dad, and this was always tough and weird. We lived had a rough time with him, and
up here.
No, just with everything. Everything with him was never fun, never pleasant. He was always an intrusive pain in the ass.
Okay.
And you know, he had moved here, I want to say in 2015, and he was still on drugs, right? Like, imagine this, right? I remember being a gunny, and was it 3-2, and I remember telling my dad lived in the Beecham apartments. There's those shitty apartments that used to be by the Triangle Motor Inn. lived off his VA check and whatever. And he would ride his scooter onto the base. He had a fucking scooter, right? And Sergeant Major's like, hey, JC, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah, what's up, Sergeant Major? He's like, your dad came by here. Oh, and before I left, I'd told my dad, I will be back from Fort Pickett on like the 6th. Mm-hmm. On the 3rd, he goes on the base. And the Sergeant Major had to go back for something, right? And and the Sergeant Major looked at me and goes, I'm sorry. I said, man, I started, the Sergeant Major was a good dude. And I was like, man, he's a motherfucker. And he's like, well, he doesn't reflect on you. But it was always tough. It was always intrusive. And
what did he go to what was he
just
trying
to hang out because he thought he was fucking cool because he was a Marine.
Oh, boy.
I remember, and then before that, I know we're getting off a little track here, but I was an SOI instructor, right? And it was a Sunday morning, and we used to have like the duty instructor that would stay back in the squad bay and watch all the crew serve weapons while the other NCOs were like running drills. And you'd do like a 6-hour shift, a 4-hour shift, and you'd rotate out. Well, I was on the gear. This guy showed up, cracked out of his mind. We were at Stone Bay, right down the street here, and had cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes, and watermelons, and like went down range. He's like, oh, I ran into all your sergeant buddies, and they told me you were here. So there's 200 fucking privates, a pile of NCOs, and he shows up, and I'm not there. And so one of them had directed him, okay, he's back at building number whatever, watching the weapons. And I remember, I could tell he was on drugs. He was on crack, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. I remember, and he got on fucking base. I'm like, how does this? Yeah. I'm like, man, come on. And I remember I had $60 in my pocket, and it was all I had my wallet. And I said, hey, get the hell out of here. Go back to Richmond. $60. Didn't see him again for years. Got thrown in jail, and then he just bounced in and out of my life. It was always tough having him in and out. But having him here was difficult, and always intrusive. Always treated women bad. Mm-hmm. Wasn't just not a good dude. And of course, I've got a wife and 3 daughters. Yeah. Right. He's only ever, spent time around my 2 oldest ones, but just a shitty dude. It wasn't even whether he was mean to my daughters. It was just the way he treated women was always tough. Mm. Just not cool. And 2017, I remember I was fighting to get Carl Gustav in the Marine Corps. It wasn't even 2017. It was early 17. Mm-hmm. We were getting ready to get that thing adopted, and had a big meeting here at Lejeune, and the Jacksonville police show up. I'm at the Marine Trade Show over on Main Side, and they're like, hey, you John Knight? I said, yeah, I go by JC. They're like, hey, your father's passed. So that was April of 17, right before I retired.
Did he come back here? He stayed in this area?
Yeah, he stayed in Beecham Apartments. And I probably didn't see him the last 5 or 6 years of his life. But it would, again, Marines would show up, oh, hey, Gunner, I met your dad. I'm like, fucking wonderful, right? But it was just the intrusive little things and the way he treated people. I just had to divorce myself from his ways. And I remember when I got selected to be a gunner, he said, oh, he goes, this means you're not going to be a sergeant major or sergeant major of the Marine Corps. I'm like, hold the fuck on a second. I said, God bless our sergeants majors, but I believe my talents pointed me to being a Marine gunner. Yeah. And I really care about the guys, and I care about all Marines, but that last 100 yards I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. So being a gunner was important to me. And it's like, man, it didn't fuck with me. It didn't upset me. It was just like, dude, you just don't get it.
Yeah, your perspective is
your
so
perspective
fucked.
on everything is trash.
Yeah.
And he passed, and there wasn't an emotional tie to it. It was just sad, and it just a life wasted. Yeah. Right. So he died when he was 69. My mom died when she was 49, and again, thank God I didn't follow. And we talk about our parents, right? We talk about raising kids. It's so frustrating when your kids get pissed off at you and mad, and oh, you're so mean, or you've done this or you've done that. It's like you have no idea.
And they have no clue.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
You've never got woken up by a drunk. You've never got woken up by drugs. You've never woke up to a strange, man in the house. You've never had your dad offer you a line of cocaine. You have no clue. But you don't always. I don't verbalize that because
I don't think you should,
because you can't put that. It's just like, man, you guys have no idea. And
I doubt your daughters know much about all of that, right? I
think my 2 oldest ones do to a degree, because they've met him.
Okay.
And they had met my mom. And meanwhile, right? My daughters in their developmental ages, my 2 oldest ones, drill instructor, straight from being a DI to 3 kinetic deployments as a platoon sergeant. No dude should do that in 7 years.
No.
I mean, it gave me the life that I've got, but everything comes with a price.
That's right.
Everything comes with a price, and I'm grateful that I did it. But it takes a little piece of you, and then as time goes on, you start to baseline a little bit, right? You don't, you come down off of that mountain, so to speak, from going to a war and in a high stress environment for 7 years. That's crazy, So yeah, you get through it, and yeah, parents have since moved on.
Yeah, I think the epigenetics, I hope I'm not fucking that word up, but like our experiences that form our genes within us.
Yeah.
So it's a theory, but whatever. For me, the amount of time I was in high stress environments for kinetic deployments was the same amount of time that it took me to come off the mountain. So it's like I wrapped myself with this 2 or 3 years of pretty kinetic lifestyle. And then when I go away from that, it took 2 or 3 years to unwrap that for me, to make my brain understand that things are okay and make my brain understand we're never doing that again. Even as bad as you may want to, your time's up.
Yeah.
I had to level with the Marine Corps putting me out. That was just as difficult, if not more difficult for me than the seizures and the PTS symptoms.
Yeah.
Don't take my purpose away. What the fuck are you talking about? It's
That's
all
heavy.
I ever wanted.
Yeah.
And now what? Now I get out and what? What does this fucking translate to?
Right.
What do I want to go make a bunch of money going to Kenya somewhere? Fuck no.
Right.
A lot of this I came in to do for America and for the Marines, and now I have to learn how to unwrap that, that feeling or that drive. But yeah, that's tough.
But yeah, about 3 or 4 years, you're about right.
Yeah.
You're about right. It takes, and there's sprinklings of it, but I think along that way too, I think you recognize within yourself too, there's also some post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
So again, 100%. I can't sit here and look back at it and say, oh man, you can't look through anything.
I would never look at it different. I wanted that.
Yeah, you can't ever look at, and I know you don't, and I certainly don't either. You can't look at it through the lens of a victim, right? No. It happened.
Well, a lot of our guys did.
There's a lot of dudes.
Fucking insane.
There's a lot of dudes that I see on social media. I'm friends with 4K plus infantrymen. And you see it when it starts to happen.
Yep.
They come out here looking for sympathy. It's like, motherfucker, you were a Marine. Get up.
Yep.
Get up, man.
You didn't sign that contract because you wanted everybody else to owe you something. That's the last thing that came into your mind, if it ever did, about your service.
Yeah.
So now when it's over, why the fuck do you expect anything from anybody?
Yeah, get up, man.
You should be leading these other people to help the next ones if that's the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
Not sitting here talking about what change you want for you. Fuck that.
Yeah, get up, man.
Yeah.
And I
get up and beat your fucking chest about the pride of who the fuck you are,
right.
And then transfer that to somebody.
Yeah. To give that. Yeah. Don't be a sad sack, man. Mm-hmm. Don't sit here and feel sorry for yourself. And the thing that kills me, and we could do a podcast all day long about suicide awareness and all that. And I don't want to go down that road, but everybody that's out there listening, everybody that you and me are connected to on social media or in our lives here, still in the defense industry and going around, we all know how this story ends. So somebody that's having a hard time, right? And I've heard people say, well, they do it through the lens of being altruistic, that they're a bother to people. We all know, because we've all been to these services, we've all been to these memorial services, and we all know that family and friends are all left hanging with, if he would have just done this, or why did he do this? We all know. So going in knowing that, get up.
Yeah.
Get up, motherfucker.
Yep, it's time.
Cut it out, man. Call your brothers.
Yeah.
Call your brothers, right? So
100%.
But yeah.
All right, well, let's get back on the timeline then.
Yeah, man.
So you come in. I always ask people if they have notable things from boot camp, and I'll preface it with, generally guys that were combat guys that did kinetic things don't have remarkable things to say about boot camp.
I don't really have anything.
Definitely structure, definitely change, at least for me. But I didn't have anything remarkable either.
No, I made it through it. Glad to be on the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Did you have that in the back of your mind when you joined? At least I'm going to have people that are on my team. At least I'm going to have that continuity.
I knew in my soul. I needed structure and discipline, and I needed something that I need to climb to, right? Because I knew I was destined for a little bit more. I just never was given the opportunity as a kid, right? And I was like, okay, I'm late to everything, right? Not to meetings, but with life, I'm late to everything. Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is going to work, and I got through that, and then I think I really started to take it serious. Dumb as shit, like any private, right? Yeah. But I'm like, okay, wow, I'm at SOI now, and a handful of us from boot camp went to this thing called ITB. Everybody else went to MCT. I'm a grunt. That's like, okay, I'm an infantryman. That's a big fucking deal, right? I thought that was so cool, and
100%.
And I remember some really life-changing stuff happens there, right? Probably more so for me there than boot camp.
Okay.
I met my best friend there, and he wasn't a private. He was an SOI instructor.
Okay.
So we get to SOI, and I remember I don't know if he was the monitor or what he was, but he was like the master guns. I just knew he had a lot of stripes. I think he might have been a master guns or master sergeant. Okay. And I remember hearing him talk there, like, okay, 195 of them are going to be 0311s, 25 of them are going to be assaultmen, 30 are going to be mortarmen, 30 are going to be machine gunners, and they walked off. And they're like, okay, who wants to be? And I just remember looking, I'm like, okay, I remember seeing the M60 and the machine gunner being a big deal, right? And I was like, okay, the mortarman sits back here and does this, the rocket guy does this, the rifleman does, I'm like, okay, the machine gunner's like the best of all worlds.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? So I'm like, I want to do that. So they put us all in a circle, and there was like 45 of us. And then they're like, okay, there's only 30. And they bull in the ringed us. Like, first 15 out aren't machine gunners.
No shit.
Right? That was pretty fucking cool.
That's cool.
So, granted, your chances of winning are you got about a 33% chance you aren't going to be a machine gunner. And, 6'2" at that time, 200 pounds. I'm like, okay,
You're all right.
I'm all right, man. I'm going to post up here. So, I get to be a 31. And we're out here in Verona Loop. And, at that point in time, I don't think all your SOI instructors, your infantry instructors were great.
Yeah.
But there were a handful. There was probably a couple in every company that were like amazing. And I remember we were hiking from LZ Eagle to the little compound out there, Camp Devil Dog.
Yeah.
And we're walking up a hill that's about like this. Of course, it feels like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's raining. You've got the old green sleeping bag, and it's wet, and everybody's miserable. And one of the 0311 instructors was a guy named Sergeant Bodette.
Yeah.
And Bo's my best friend, right? And we're private nights walking, and up comes this Marine sergeant, big fucking scar, half a can of Copenhagen in his mouth, looks the part, sounds the part, and I guess he could see my name tape, and he knew my name somehow, and he goes, "Hey, Knight." I'm like, yeah, of course, yes, Sergeant. He goes, kids are falling out of the hike, and I'm up there with the lead pack, doing my thing, miserable,
yeah,
Yes, Sergeant. He goes, you want some advice? Now, of course, no, I don't want to hear a fucking thing from this sergeant.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Sergeant. He goes, I can teach a man to be a lot of things. He goes, I can't teach a man to not be a pussy. So you want some advice? Don't be a pussy.
Don't be a pussy.
And that's how his boy, don't be a pussy. Roger that. So, Sergeant.
Yeah.
He's not giving me an order. He's giving me advice.
Yeah.
I'm So that stuck with me. And
sometimes it's little nuggets like that are right.
Right.
It's, for certain people.
Yeah.
It's right.
Right.
Don't be a pussy.
And then from there, off to Victor 1-2 as a machine gunner, man.
Okay.
So Alpha 1-2, and spent time there, and had a really badass platoon commander.
Where are we at year-wise right there?
96.
96, okay.
January 96. And had a really badass platoon commander named Lieutenant Dремmen, just retired Colonel Dремmen.
Okay.
And tough man. And I thought every lieutenant ran like a 16-minute 3-mile because of this dude.
Yeah. Just
an animal of a human being. But what I'd picked up from Bodette and what I just learned is nobody likes a pussy. Nobody likes a complainer. For what we do, there is no tolerance for just being weak.
Yeah.
Right? There's too much at stake.
Yeah.
It should be a given that a Marines, and that resonated with me. And I remember it was always a sense of pride that when that dude would take us on a hike, he dropped damn near everybody in weapons platoon, but like me, his RTO, and 3 other machine gunners. maybe, and one mortarman, but just an animal. And I remember the Bodette put that on me. And I remember we were on a hike in Panama, and I had a Somali vet for a team leader, and he sucked. He was soft. Motherfucker had like 13 ribbons, though. You're like, holy shit, Lance Corporal, 4-year Lance Corporal, hash mark, 13 ribbons, Somali vet. But boy, he was 2 proof whiskey, man. I mean, fucking weak. Weak. And I remember his nickname was Reggie.
Yeah.
And Reggie Hammond. Like Reggie Hammond from 48 Hours, Eddie Murphy, right?
Yeah.
But Reggie was just so fucking soft. We get on a hike, and I hear the lieutenant. We had a company gunny that was a flamethrower in Vietnam.
Okay.
And we had my lieutenant, platoon commander, weapons platoon. And we're hiking, and he's like, Reg, he goes, you better not fall back. Sir, Roger, yes, sir. All that. You know, we hike about not even 500 meters.
Already fallen?
Reggie's falling out.
Oh, boy.
And there's the company gunny. Breathing fire. Flamethrower. Fucking Reggie. You know, chewing his ass.
Yeah.
Get the fuck up there. You know, and all of a sudden, I see Reggie's pack go flying across this golf course in Panama along this naval station. He goes, well, just get in the fucking truck and die. He goes, for all I care, fall in the ditch and die.
Oh, boy.
Lieutenant Drummond looks, but he's like, who's the number 2 guy in that machine gun team? I'm like, PFC Knight. He goes, get the fuck up here, Knight. Yeah, you know, Lieutenant talking like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, he goes, you're in charge of Reggie from now on. If he's not dead, you're a team leader. And yeah, PFC team leader for
Get some.
So from like March of '96 until I retired, you know, August of 17, so almost 22 years. I was always in a leadership billet. So you know, if you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough, right?
That's right.
At least at that age, we're all dumb at that age. I'm
That's
not,
right.
you know. Let me take care of this team. Let me do good as a team leader. So.
I think the Marine Corps does a good job about that, which self-proclaimed, but the leadership early, leading early, failing early in training, failing early, you know, failures where growth is born. So
Right.
if you're a PFC and able to make those mistakes, what are you as a team leader, as a corporal?
Right.
What are you as a squad leader, as a corporal? Right.
Yeah.
I think they do it really good. The Army sucks at it.
Yeah,
And
we're
training some of the Army with the other job, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking rough sometimes.
I say this every time I get to speak at a Marine Corps ball, and you know, people want to ask. I've seen so many cookie cutter guest speakers. I try not to be one.
Mm-hmm.
What makes us different? I said, there's no other service on planet Earth that will ask of a second lieutenant and a lance corporal what the Marine Corps does. The Army will not deploy with an E3 as a fire team leader.
Nope.
They will not, damn sure not deploy with an E3 as a fucking squad leader. Guess what? We do, and we have.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give a second lieutenant a rifle platoon, and we will attach everything under the sun to that kid, and we'll ask him to go forth and do great things. Nobody else does that.
Yeah.
Not to the level that we do. Yeah. So the opportunities that you have within the Marine Corps institution from a leadership perspective, wow.
Yeah.
Right? That's special. So, and I try to do that. Went on to become, you know, battalion 1-2, went on Lance Corporal Squad Leader.
Mm-hmm.
Had an opportunity to do a super squad, so I picked up 0311.
Fuck yeah.
Picked up 0311. My platoon sergeant was running the super squad, so I got to go do that. So then I went back to my company, squad leader, section leader, and I think about that time, I'm like, okay, I'm getting this infantry thing a little bit right. And I went back to my parent company, and you know, the super squad that I did it with damn near, it was most of the sniper platoon is what it was. They did it like a draft, and it was all the kids in the sniper platoon. And they're like, hey, you're going to come over to the sniper platoon. I'm like, dude, I haven't done an NDOC.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, you've been with us for 6 months. You run ungodly amounts of miles, hiking. You're a team leader here.
You're good.
You're one of us. You're coming over.
Yeah.
Roger that. Go back to my parent company. I got orders to the School of Infantry. And I'd only been I just now hit my 3-year mark. Got promoted to corporal about 2.5, right? You know, so I get back, I'm like, well, fuck, guys, I guess I'm going to the School of Infantry. And I checked in, and there was 30. They used to not be a B billet. So like about 30 of us got dropped over to SOI. And we're all standing out there at the headquarters of the S1. And they're like, if I call your name, get over here. And they called everybody's name but me and the tow gunner, corporal. They're like, you two are going to ITB.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And the battalion XO pulled me to the side, and he goes, He goes, do you know why you're going to ITB? I said, no, sir. He goes, because you're a 31 and an 11, and we needed a tow gunner. And I was, man, that made me feel so damn special, right? I mean, who the hell am I, right? I've been a corporal for like 2 seconds. And,
Sure.
Right? And went over there, and...
MCT would have been bad for you.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, it would have been bad for me.
Yeah.
And I went over there. I'm a single guy, right? And I put myself on lights. I don't think I ever went back to the barracks at night. I was always out there with the privates. And after my first class, I mean, there's sergeants that have been in 8, 9 years, never got anything. They put me in formation. They put everybody in formation. And I had this company Gunny Johnson was his name. Big, tall, scary, tough-looking black dude. Drill instructor, had this big, ominous laugh, and he was just all business, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember my first night on duty. I was just out there trying to be a good NCO. Privates are all I wake them up on time, get them out there, and I got them feeding MREs, and the chow hall truck shows up. I'm like, fuck, they're going to get breakfast twice. I'm like, man, I got to answer to the Gunny. The Gunny came out, and he goes, nope, you're just out here handling business, dog. Don't you worry about it. And the dude ended up retiring at the end of that. And I think it was that class or the next class. And he emboldened me. He was like, hey, what you do is the way it's supposed to be done. I've got 8, 9 year sergeants around me.
Yeah.
And he's pointing at me.
Yeah.
And that class, I got a Navy Achievement Medal.
Fuck
they
yeah.
didn't give out names. I mean, they still don't Yeah.
I
mean, we get Marines that get names with V's for fucking storming Iwo Jima. I mean, we don't do we do a terrible job at awards, but
We do.
But they're like, wow, somebody thought enough of me as a corporal to say,
hey, that dude needs recognized.
that dude needs recognition. And they pulled me out in front of the company. I thought I was in trouble for like fucking a kid up, right? And they gave me a fucking name. I'm like, holy shit, man. And then I'm like, okay, well, what do I do with my life?
What did that do? Just put a fire under you?
I think.
Or did
it was
confirm?
It confirmed.
Yeah.
It confirmed. It's like, okay, I'm not bad at this infantry thing. Not good at anything else, but I'm okay at this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're not really a nightmare scenario. Here come the monitors.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you've got your deployments in a grunt unit. You're working here. You've got to go do a billet. That was the time in the Marine Corps, late 90s, where you had to go do something else. And I'm like, they're like, you can go. Then they said, monitor was set in their special assignments where you can go be MSG, you can go recruit, or you can go be a drill instructor. I didn't want to be a security guard. I didn't have the discipline or desire to be a recruiter. I'm like, so that leaves one thing. I'm going to go be a drill instructor. And we talk about the path, right? I'm at the Osprey Inn on Parris Island, and I'm in my alphas, and I look down the catwalk, and there is Staff Sergeant Bodette.
No shit.
Here's a 12-year Staff Sergeant. Here's 5-year, 6-year, 5.5 years, 5-year Sergeant Knight. I'm like, well, fuck, I'm going to go introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, Staff Sergeant Bodette, Sergeant Knight, you were my SOI instructor. And of course, he looks at me, he goes, fuck. He goes, I guess I'm going to have to take care of you again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, probably so.
Yeah.
And then we end up in the same squad at DI school.
Okay.
And, I was a shit drill instructor school student.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember I had one moment, and I'm getting like, you got to get an 80 to pass on everything.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm getting like 82%, 83%. We do an exam on like the M16A2 service rifle. I get 100. It's the only fucking 100 I get. Everything else is like low 80s. And the Gunnery Sergeant, right? Like pulls me in, my squad instructor, and he's all, on my ass. He goes, and of course I'm seeing, Marines at DI school that'll get 100 like doing, a drill movement, but can't climb the fucking rope right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Or just look good in uniform because they've got a 26-inch waist. But shit fucking Marine. But they look the part and they can do that, right? So young belligerent grunt, right? I'm like, man, fuck these guys, right? Probably not the right attitude to have at DI school. But I remember going into the gunny, and this I'll never forget this. And Bodette was standing outside, and the gunny calls me and he goes, get in here, Knight. Good afternoon, Gunnery Sergeant. He goes, just shut up. He goes, you don't fail anything, but you get like an 83 on everything. He goes, what the fuck is your problem? I said, Gunnery Sergeant, if I go to bed at 2100 to get an 83, I'm not staying up till midnight to get a 93. Boy, he fucking flipped. Man, he took that cover off. He was like, odd job out of 007. He fucking threw it at me. And I was like, I went like this. I went, and like popped back up. Bodette's like, JC, that was the wrong fucking thing to say. I said, Bo, he goes, just shut the fuck up.
Just stand there.
Just shut the fuck up. But I think I ended up graduating like 41 out of 44.
Fuck yeah.
You know, and the Gunny Bodette would tell me this in hindsight. He goes, Gunny, the Gunny, the squad advisor called him in. He's like, what the fuck's Knight's problem? He's like, Gunny, he's going to go out there and be fine as a drill instructor. He just sucks as a fucking student. And he watched out for me, and from even the earliest times, that's where our friendship started. He always looked out for me and watched my back, and I appreciate him for that. And we both became 2nd Battalion drill instructors. Wouldn't go do the hat thing again. I don't think it defines who you are, right? I mean, I'm proud that I did it. I got to make Marines. One of my other very close and dear friends was one of my recruits. Helped me get ready for sniper school, all that. So grateful for the people that I came across.
Yeah.
Got a couple buddies or hats I still keep in touch with. Got meritoriously promoted there, which is crazy. It's the only
Pretty solid.
Yeah, only meritorious promotion I ever got.
In the place you didn't want to be.
The place that I didn't want to be, right? We got stop lost while we were there. So we got stop lost, which was interesting, and which we still only did our 3-year tours. But Bodette ended up leaving about 3 weeks before me, and I was supposed to go to 3-2, and I had no idea where Bodette was going. We're both tired drill instructors. Hey brother, good to see you. Hey, second Mardiv, I'll see you when we get up there.
Yeah.
I'm on block leave, and like the division admin guy calls me. This staff sergeant? I'm like, it is. He goes, hey, brother, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your orders got changed from 3-2 to 3-6. And 3-2 was like the shittiest fucking battalion in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
It was bad. And, my inner shitbird said, okay, I can check in all the way till midnight. I'm going to go check in at 14:30. That gives me time to walk in, see somebody, take my alphas off, and come back the next morning.
Yep.
I walk around, and you know how the old barracks over there used to be set up. I park in the parking lot, coming by the dumpster, and see one of the guys that became one of my friends, Sean Christ, was one of my machine gunners. And I'm like, hey, bud. I said, where's 3-6 at? He's like, right there, Staff Sergeant. I'm like, just being nice, trying not to be a hat, right? And it just so happened, guess who walks out of Kilo Company's office to put a dip in? Bodette. And there wasn't a lot of strength in that company, and I think he knew that, and he walks out, and here he is. And his eyes get big. He goes, JC, what the fuck are you doing here? And what I've learned with Bodette is if he wants to be my buddy at that point in time, he's calling me JC. If he needs something done, he's calling me Staff Sergeant Knight.
Yeah.
But he's like, JC, what the fuck are you doing here? I'm like, well, Gunny, what do you think I'm doing here? I'm in my alphas. I'm checking in. He goes, don't move and don't let anybody get you. I'm like, okay. CO's window's open, and I hear Bodette go in there. He goes, hey, sir. He goes, go fire that platoon sergeant. He goes, your new first platoon sergeant standing outside. And he comes outside. He goes, I've done talked to the CO. I went up, and he also went up and talked to the sergeant major, and he goes, Sergeant Major, we got a guy. I want him to come to Kilo Company. So Bodette comes to me, brand new staff sergeant. He goes, you're going to go upstairs, you're going to see Sergeant Major. You're going to tell Sergeant Major you want to go to Kilo Company. I'm like, okay, boot staff sergeant's going to go up and tell the Sergeant Major where I'm going. He goes, that's exactly what you're going to do. I walk upstairs, lock my heels, Sergeant Major, Staff Sergeant Knight reporting his ordered. I want to go to Kilo Company. He goes, well, as a matter of fact, Staff Sergeant, I have a home for you in Kilo Company. Downstairs I went.
Fucking perfect.
Fucking perfect.
That's awesome. And what year is this now?
04.
04.
Okay. Yeah, and ended up in the mountains of Afghanistan together, Korengal Valley. Pretty bad, shitty place. I had a rifle platoon reinforced with 81s, had me some javelin gunners, had a sniper team, and had my lieutenant with me. And Bodette at the time was the weapons platoon sergeant.
Okay.
So all of his guys were split.
Yeah.
And because I'm a brand new staff sergeant and my lieutenant's a old country guy from Georgia, the company kind of sent Bodette along because we were only together. We were only in the company together for 2 months before we went to war. Mm-hmm. And we had a great battalion commander named Dale Alford, who retired as General Alford. Yep. Great guy. Still one of my closest friends. He took us to Afghanistan, and me and my lieutenant, unbeknownst to everybody, we ended up in probably the worst place. Yeah. And they're like, well, Bo, we're going to send you up here to keep an eye on Knight and Ray. Mm-hmm. And kind of turns out, Bodette's like, fuck, I'm up here with fucking JC. I don't need to do anything. Yeah. So he attached himself essentially to the Special Forces guys. Okay. And he would always go out and ride around with the Special Forces guys. And he allowed me to lead my platoon. A lot of Marines won't do that. They're going to want to try to take ownership. So, I got to set up our base defense. We took over from a really shitty unit. Claymore wires were chewed up by goats.
Oh, boy.
Marines weren't living good. I had a kid that was so fucking native, right? And I can appreciate like SF guys, Metallica shirt, beard, right? That's their thing. But I'm doing an OP changeover, and there's a kid walking me up a hill that's got cut off camis.
Oh boy.
Running shoes and like a week long beard, and
How'd that tingle with the drill instructor?
Well, no, I'm walking him up the hill, and he was so fucking nasty. I'm like, this has got to be like an SF support guy, and the kid starts talking Marine, and I'm like, whoa, who are you with? He goes 2-8, first platoon. I'm like, or whatever the name, whatever platoon it was. I'm like, wow, man, holy shit. I'm like, Roger that.
Lord of Flies.
It was Lord of the Flies. And then I go down, and the SF guys had their team room. And this was a reserve SF unit, I think 19th group out of Lake Utah. And the only guys allowed in the team room were the platoon sergeant and platoon commander. And I was like, okay, well, me and my lieutenant aren't going in there. If the boys ain't allowed in, we ain't going either.
Yeah.
Unless it's to conduct business, right?
Uh-huh.
A couple days later, up shows a guy from 3rd group, Luke. And he's like, as soon as this clown show leaves, this all changes. He goes, if it's good enough for us, it's good enough for the Marines. And PFC, lowest man on the totem pole was in the lounge with Green Beret guys living a good life. Steaks, lobster tail when they come in a reefer, right? ACs got put in all the barracks. These kids that were up there with 2 were living in like squalor, essentially.
Because it was a different group?
Platoon sergeant.
Was it the group dynamic, though?
It was the platoon sergeant, platoon commander.
Oh, okay.
Right? They just didn't do anything and it was the whole package of discipline, right? There's holes in the wire. Mortars weren't laid in a way to cover defilade. Machine guns weren't laid right to cover long axes of avenues of approach. Patrol schedule was shit.
Did those guys get fucked up while they were there?
I don't think to a great degree, but I also don't think they projected power like we did. But it was just a mess. And I remember looking at my lieutenant, and he's like, well, what do we do? I said, we're just going to start the fuck over. And, of course, my lieutenant, his eyes get this fucking big.
Yeah.
He's like, we're starting over. And I'm trying to find my way, but I go back to just basic blocking and tackle infantry stuff. So you're a machine gunner. You know how to do a fire plan sketch. Guess what? I'm going to do a base fire plan. Here's my claymores gridded in. Here's my machine guns. Here's my mortars. Snipers are going to be moving here and here. Here's our watch rotation. Boom, boom, boom. Battalion commander shows up, and I brief. This is everything that's happening. But along the way, there's a lot of things that I don't know, and there's a lot of experiences I haven't had yet, right? And one particular evening, probably our first fight where we took some sustained gunfire, like shit was popping off. Mm-hmm. And one of the OPs got hit, and they're cranking out machine gun rounds. Rockets are coming in from another mountain. And I'm on a roof, and a machine gun goes down. It's a Mark 19. Well, J.C. Knight, weapons company machine gun instructor at ITB, I'm pretty good with machine guns.
Yeah.
Right? That's just what that was what I did for a
That's
living.
your shit.
It's my shit, man. And I've got 3 Marines trying to clear it, and Bodette was there. And out of the darkness comes this fucking bear paw. And he grabs me. He's like, this was the best and most important ass chewing I ever got in my life. Mm-hmm. He grabs me and he goes, this isn't your fucking job anymore. He goes, go fight your platoon. In the calmest, most direct voice that I've ever received an ass chewing.
Yeah.
Where it was just, he just gave me direction. He gave me, that's what I needed at that moment, right? And I respected him so much, and I'd learned so much from this guy already. It didn't make me mad. It hurt me. It was like, I was a little pissed. Like, he just like, ugh, that sucked. But I was like, Roger that. And I think it gave me, it was a waypoint in my life as a Marine. And, I run off the roof, and guess what I hear a couple seconds later? Bop, 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 bop. Mark 19's up. But it emboldened me. It gave me confidence. It did all that. And, so we went on, got in a bunch of fights up there, got in some fights together. Ended up on the History Channel. They did a show on him. They did a part on him on the History Channel. And I truly believe from that Afghan experience, because I got to, manage every organic asset we had. I mean, the BC came up and got in fights with just my platoon. Mm-hmm. The Battalion Gunner and me got caught in an ambush from 2 sides of the valley, Bell and Bodette and some Green Berets out. Shot thousands of rounds. Killed a lot of bad guys, right, and didn't lose any dudes, thank God.
Fuck yeah.
I learned my trade there. I really did, and I became the experience made me a much better infantryman, right, and grateful for that opportunity.
Do you think that when you get kinetic experience as a grunt, because you always see guys that got in kinetic engagements and did well, their careers go like this, and I don't think it's necessarily just because you got in combat in a kinetic environment, but what I do think is that when guys like you get into that, it just so much reinforces where they're at and their confidence level that now they're able to, or not able, but they learn a lot, obviously, from that. Training becomes a huge thing whenever you've been kinetic, even once. And then the confidence, though, that you know that you did it right, at least for me, that just gave me, even as a sergeant, that gave me all the confidence in the world just to stand up and go. And when people said, fuck you, or that's not right, so you don't know what you're talking about. Right. I was on the ground. I watched these Marines do this.
Yeah.
This here works. That what you're doing doesn't work.
Right.
And like before I had the actual kinetic engagements, I might not have said some of that. I might not have been as boisterous, with certain topics tactically than I was after.
Right.
You believe that?
Absolutely. And I think with the Afghan experience for me is I really got to apply everything that I'd preached. The things that I'd preached as a drill instructor, the things I'd preached as an infantry instructor, the things I practiced in 1-2 for my first enlistment. And I remember I talked about Nate Blanton. One of my recruits became one of my best friends, retired Raider Master Sergeant. Nate was with 2-8, and he was a Lance Corporal Sniper team leader. And I got woke up in the middle of the night. This is before I went to Camp Blessing in Nagalam by the Corn Gall. And here's this kid, pop bottle glasses, Copenhagen in his mouth. 2 o'clock in the morning. Staff Sergeant Knight. He goes, you remember me? I said, I do. Blanton. He goes, you got a second? I'm like, well, of course. And of course he's kind of looking at me funny because I'm like, I'm a platoon sergeant. I'm not his drill instructor, right? And we're just bullshitting. And he goes, what AO you operating in? He goes, I got something for you. I'm like fucking Santa Claus. Here he comes with 3 sea bags. Black tip, armor piercing 5.56, water purification kits, maps with every place that I'm going, where he's had contact. All the level of professionalism that I got from a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps was unbelievable. He just gave me all this. Here's some cold weather fleeces, some little the little Petzl fucking headlamps. That's when everybody still had the shitty little bent moonbeams. Yeah, he's giving me all these fucking. I'm like, Jesus Christ! It's like Christmas in April, and he goes, can you stay right here for a minute? I'm like, well, buddy, I'm on my cot. I'm not going anywhere. Platoon 2008 that I had in 2002 as a drill instructor. Probably my favorite platoon. I was their heavy. I was one that taught them everything. And I had about 10 grunts in that platoon, and they all went to 2-8. And, none of them were on the fob that I took, but most of them were weapons company kids, sniper platoon. They called me outside, and they're like, everything you taught us as a drill instructor mattered.
Yeah. How'd that feel?
And I haven't really even done anything yet, right? I've got combat before, but no sustained. These kids have been up here slinging it, right?
It, yeah.
And, wow. And they're like, can we get a picture with you? I'm like, of course, my clean fucking camis. And I'm like, absolutely. And became friends with Nate. And that was great. But he set me up for success up there. And we went up there and did good work. Had a pile of my guys get decorated for valor. Didn't lose anybody. But the little things that you always get taught. Laying your crew served weapons right. Noise and light discipline. Taking care of Marines, right? Simple things. I had a cook, and we talk about purpose-driven stuff. Lance Corporal Tubbs, and Tubbs showed up, and he got to turn over with the 2-8 cook. Food would be left out at night, flies. I'm like, nope. I said, all this stuff that you get that's like dry shelf-stable stuff, tortillas, this, that, and the other. I'm like, SF's going out. They're bringing back chickens. You're making fajitas tonight. We've got frozen steaks, and you're making steak fajitas tonight, or you're making this or that, or we get eggs from a local farmer.
Fuck yeah.
And then I had there was an Afghan that worked on the camp that got paid like $1 a day to be a cook, right? And I'm like, this is yours. But moreover, whenever the camp would get like a rocket attack, or when we thought there was potential for a coordinated attack, we had a big air horn, and he had his own battle position. And I just made him purpose driven. I'm like, there's a job for you just like there is everybody else.
Yep.
And that mattered, right? Yep. So everybody, everybody had a part to play, but seeing it wrong was probably a great benefit. And and our battalion commander had come from 2-8, and he just kind of shook his head. He's like, man, I can't believe they've went to this level. Like, he was disappointed. He was their XO, and then now he's our battalion commander, and we just started over. And what a great experience. Yeah. Just doing simple things well. And I remember before we left, I inherited a platoon that had a lot of hazing incidents. Our whole company, but it's a bad unit, right? So of course there's hazing problems. And I remember telling them, I'm like, this distrust that's bred through okay, I got a little stupid hazing, making a guy do push-ups, whatever. I get that, but naked in a shower with like bleach and chlorine with a gas mask on, man, that kind of stupid shit, right?
Yep.
It was bad.
Yep.
I had a lot of guys that were scarred from that, and I'm like, this has got to stop, man.
Yep.
I said, because if we go to where we're going, and you're at the point of friction, and you have observation of the problem that's in front of you, I need to be able to trust you as your platoon sergeant,
yep.
and you need to be able to trust me. And I kind of get them to look, because the bridge of trust just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And over time, we absolutely got there. And I had kids that had NJPs. I had one kid that got court-martialed for hazing, did brig time. He was a PFC as like an A duty NCO, and a bunch of salts were, and he lied, and he got, so his trust in the Marine Corps was broken. And I was able to bring these guys back to, the baptism of fire, and through what we went through, man, we came back together.
Yeah. And
strong fucking platoon. Best year of my life. Yeah, professionally. Even as a fucking Carl Gustav guy. I mean, by far, I got to lead that platoon in combat. And then we get home, and I had a first sergeant that was a straight fucking pussy. Well, both deployments, my first sergeant was a pussy. You can quote me on that. They were both sorry as fuck. And get a new first sergeant, the second deployment, the one before sucked too. We're getting ready to go to Iraq, and they're doing personnel. You know how they move officers and staff NCOs around after every deployment. Hey, we're getting ready to do personnel, and my first sergeant goes, "You're leaving." What do you mean I'm leaving? He goes, you need to go and get more experience. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've employed every weapon organic to the battalion.
Exactly.
And you're not going to make me a company gunny as a staff sergeant. I really love my guys. I'm going to stay here. No, you're not. You're fucking leaving. Well,
who the fuck did he talk to that gave him this animus towards you? Or was he just trying to establish?
He did not like me from Afghanistan because I had my sleeves cuffed.
Good reason.
Good reason, yeah. I will go on record to also say that white socks and cuffed sleeves have never cost a Marine their life in combat.
Nope.
And it is not an indicator of discipline. End quote.
I echoed.
Right?
Echoed.
So he says this, and lo and behold, we talk about, credibility with true warriors and leaders. I had it with my gunner and with my battalion commander. Had some really badass squad leaders that did amazing things up there. Marines did a great job, and here comes the BC. And at that time, Lieutenant Colonel Alfred's taking us to Iraq as well. Hey, JC, what do you want to do on the next deployment? I want to keep my rifle platoon. He yells down the company office, "Hey, First Sergeant, Knight's staying in First Platoon."
That's great though, but that's what you built your brand name. The Marine Corps built that name. We just got to keep it up, right? But your name you built as a young guy,
right?
Coming up, hard worker, tactically proficient, hard-nosed dude, makes good Marines, and then that helps you as you go, right? People remember that.
You have to have big brothers along the way.
Yeah.
You have, and there's countless great Marines, even good Marines and deserving Marines that didn't have that, and I'm grateful. And my battalion gunner, man, Cannon Cargyle, God bless him. I learned so much from that dude. So I had all that time with Beaudet, all that time with Gunner Cargyle, and it paid some huge dividends. Having those guys around, and to be able to have the battalion commander come in and by name say, "Hey, you're staying. Yeah. You're not moving.
This guy's here.
Deal with it, Company K." And
how'd that first sergeant react?
He was always a bitch. He did not, and I say this because, and I'm not gonna name drop him here, but that dude constantly tried to set me up for failure at every turn and corner. And any dude that could do a push-up or had any bit of like alpha blood in him, he had a complete dislike for, and it was clearly obvious.
Why do you think?
I don't know.
Think because he was weak?
I think so. And I have a real, and this is just based off of my experience. Captains that command companies, I think we owe them a 16 to 18 year E8 that knows
what his job is.
What they're doing. I question cross-pollination with senior enlisteds. I question it. Now, there are great guys from other MOSs that go out and they go to a different MOS to serve as the first sergeant and sergeant major. But in my experience, the ones I had no business being there. They think they ill-advised their fucking COs. They were a drain on the Marines. And this guy in particular just always tried to hamstring me. And every little shit comment. I learn a lot of this after the fact. But I just keep grinding and trying to focus on my guys.
Yep.
And, once again, Bodette coming to my aid and saving my ass was important. We had an instance in our FOB. Well, not in our FOB, but we're in Iraq. And we had one big tall building that could see into our camp. And we had this shitbird Marine that I'd lit up. He'd like back talked a weak sergeant. Like you've seen a weak sergeant, right?
Yep,
and I light this kid up, and he back talks me. And I fucking flip out. I'm like, motherfucker, why? And of course, my platoon's so tight, like my Marines hear it, and they're like, Staff Sergeant, we'll get that motherfucker. I'm like, get back in the fucking hooch. I got this, right? Don't you worry about it. And I told this kid, I said, hey, I wake up tomorrow, that building, can't see in the camp anymore. The first sergeant's like, why did you yell at him? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, my Marine. I'm like, he's the Marine Corps Marine. And he's weak and he sucks. And if you're not going to hold him accountable, I am. And of course, first sergeant took his bitch ass on down the street. But that next day, we went on a patrol. And I'm in a house. And one of my boots, PFC Chaffee, comes in the house. We're dressing down this house. We found an AK, right? And we're asking them all kinds of questions. They're playing dumb. And the kid comes down and he goes, hey, Staff Sergeant, I just saw three dudes in black man jams cross the street with an RPG and rifles. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, holy shit, roger that. I handed that guy the AK. I'm like, if I hear a round come from anywhere near here, I'm coming to your house first. Gave him his AK back. Right? Okay, you got your rifle. Right? So we man up, get everybody out. I'm like, guys, stay behind the courtyard wall. And we're going to get in that house through, because we've been in this house before. We can see the big, tall building. I knew that's where they were going. And we get there, and one of the Iraqis had to go to the WC. Had to walk out in the quad and take a piss. Pop, hits him. Me and a couple other guys drag him in, and then it's on. And we're fighting with that. We're fighting with that big, tall house that can see inside of our camp. And I knew that that if anybody was to launch an attack in our camp, it was going to be from there because it's the only vantage point.
Makes sense.
So we're lighting up. Now, here's the problem so let's say, that house over there, which nobody can see here on the camera, but that house is where I'm shooting. On the other side, about 150 yards is our camp.
Oh, wow.
So there are tracers going up and over the camp. And, of course, the first sergeant's in there flipping, what the fuck are you shooting at the camp, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, the company gunny, Bodette's like, everybody just shut the fuck up. He goes, and then they hear me come over the radio, calling for a loom. I'm allowing my squad leader who's out there to fight his squad. And I'm just the glue trying to help hold it together. But I remember everything settled down. We ended up running those guys off, kept them from hitting the camp. And the next day, Bodette goes back and, some of the guys go back to the main side to get some gear and whatnot. And the battalion commander asks, he's like, nope, JC's got it. But he always provided that calm. Because, of course, the first sergeant's in there running his mouth like, oh, he's shooting at the camp, he's doing this. Dude would have done anything to get me fucking ousted. Right? It was just
hated you, huh?
Yeah, just always hating, man, because I cuffed my fucking sleeves, man.
Yeah.
And shut up. I hope somebody's fucking your old lady. Bitch. Cuck.
So clearly you're over it, huh?
Yeah, well, and then it got worse, right? I mean, and this was hard times, man. I'd lost a great Marine, Norman Anderson, to a suicide bomber.
On that same deployment.
On that same deployment, and I boys came together, did a great job, honored his memory by not going native and acting stupid.
Very easy to go the other way.
Very easy to go the other way. God bless my team leaders, man. They were great. I carried a lot of my team leaders over from Afghanistan, so I only had like a 25% turnover. So I had a platoon of adults.
And you knew them.
Knew them. Mm-hmm. And they knew. And we were so tight and so good that Anderson was a squad leader. And he got combat promoted in Afghanistan. Well, like a dumbass Marine, God bless him and I love him, his girlfriend was coming down, who ended up being his wife. And he had been drinking, and he drove to the front gate to pick her up. Oh, boy. Got a Dewey, busted the Lance Corporal. So his best friend, Thornton, was his first team leader. And I said, man, I'm disappointed in you. Wally was his nickname. So I'm disappointed in you. I said, but you're an important part to what we do here. I said, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you the first fire team leader. And Thornton's going to be the squad leader. So I kept him in the same squad. And he ran point as a fire team leader. And long story short, suicide bomber came out in a vehicle. Yeah. They pied the vehicle off, waved it off a bunch of times. And he stood his ground, killed the driver. Secondary trigger man blew it, but he saved his whole squad. Yeah. And all those guys are alive, no missing arms, legs. He did God's work, man. He saved the whole squad. And
shout out.
They wouldn't be here without him. And I think my guys did a bust up, unbelievable job honoring his memory. And they fought hard. They did the right thing. We ended up quartered in the suicide bomber cell about 7 days later. Buried them in a house. Ended up putting dynamite in their heads, blowing them up, and getting rid of them. So there was definitely some healing there that all of our guys got to watch that. But we got through that deployment, rough deployment. And looking back after fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, me and Bodette talk about this. Me and my squad leaders still get together in the Marines. We'll talk about this. We're lucky. We probably should have lost a lot more guys than what we did. But I think doing simple things well and having that bond of trust, man, you can't put a dollar amount on that. So yeah. I think for anybody that's listening that has potential to go into harm's way, motorcycle safety, suicide awareness, tobacco cessation, sapper training, transgender acceptance, all this shit that we waste time on, that does not matter. Trust in a zeroed service rifle. That fucking matters. Yep. So don't screw that up. So yeah.
All right, so getting back into it now, we had to take a short break. Closing out that deployment, you have a kinetic deployment. You got Bodette again as a buffer for this, this first sergeant that we don't even need to mention because it wasn't worth the breath.
Still learned a lot. Got to spend another year with my guys. Mm-hmm. So I got 2.5 years with the same rifle platoon.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
Unheard of, man. And those guys are still some of my best friends. Yeah. Cronenberry, Reisky, Taddy, Childress, Hannacrat, Christ, Fairfield. The list goes. Dave Childress. I mean, Jose Murillo. The list goes on. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Ringgold. Great guys. Love those guys. My lieutenants, Ray and Fishesser. Great guys. Wrapped that deployment up, got home,
and your staff about to be gunning now?
I'm getting close. So we get home, and monitor comes out, and they're like, "Okay, every other staff sergeant in the battalion left except me." He's like,
when you came home?
When we came home, they're like, "Oh, time for orders." Everybody done their 2 deployments. That's how war was, right? 2 deployments, disappear. Devil dog, you need more experience. Okay, I just got decorated for valor 2 deployments in a row, and you're telling me I need more experience. Okay. Roger that. So, the first sergeant we talked about, new incoming first sergeant I end up going to weapons company. And Don Reeg, Gunner Reeg, a bunch of guys wanted to be the sniper platoon sergeant. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't mention that in Iraq I got thrown off of an Amtrak. Broke my tailbone, rolled my ankles, jammed fucked my body up pretty good. I still deal with a couple issues from that.
You got that staph NCO hobble now?
A little bit, yeah, man. I actually got a cyst from scar tissue growing inside my ankle. It's been
now?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just, but it's fine. I'm not gonna. I mean, it's fine.
From that?
From that.
No shit.
And that was during the beginning of that deployment. So I did the whole deployment with a broken tailbone, 2 rolled ankles, a concussion, all that good shit. So stay
hard. Don't be a pussy.
Yeah, stay hard, man. Right? I mean, I'm on patrol on Valiums and Percocets, and the guys are like, staff sergeant, we're getting shot at. I'm like, I was like Buckshot Roberts out of Young Guns, the old man that shows up with the foot missing and a bag full of guns. So
it'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. So Reed comes to me. He goes, man, all these guys want to take the sniper platoon. And again, I'd done a super squad with snipers when I was a young Marine. I'm like, the sniper thing sailed. I'm never going to get that. And that's okay, right? It doesn't define who you are. But I'm like, hey, Don, I said, I'm not, because Don was moving on and was going to be a Marine gunner. And I said, Don, I don't want to come over there and take the sniper platoon unless I go to school.
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have some Lance Corporal look at me and go, oh, dirty pig, whatever.
Yep.
I remember one of my guys, Art Baker, and he's my buddy now. He's like a Lance Corporal, but he's been to sniper school and been to Iraq.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, what's your bio? I'm like, oh, you would hit me with that then, huh? Okay. I'm like, oh, I got more V's than you got C services, bud. How about that? It's a hat, McQuist, all this other shit. And I was like, is that good enough?
Yeah.
And I was with the platoon for about 4 days, and I went to sniper school.
Good enough.
Yeah, and didn't get a chance to get ready for it. But I called Nate Blanton, my recruit. That was a sniper team leader, and he was working urban sniper at that point in time. I said, Nate, I'm going to sniper school next week. He's like, get over to the house. And Nate lived in Richlands, right down the road from me. So I get over there. He gave me this ruck that 4 other dudes that had attended school would use. He goes, 4 guys carried this, 4 guys passed. He helped me put my ghillie together, helped me get ready, get my mind right, and all that. And off to sniper school. Being that I was an older staff sergeant, I was the only staff NCO going through school, which is rare that a staff sergeant does.
Sure.
I took like a pile of my guys with me and went through sniper school and class commander the whole time. Ass kicker of a school.
Oh, yeah.
You get your shit pushed in. And 3 months later, get through sniper school and get the platoon geared up.
So you were a first-time graduate.
Yeah, first-time graduate.
It's not a lot of people do that either.
Yeah. I did my the only cool sniper story I'll share from sniper school. I did my last 2 stalks with a Smoky with my DI hat on.
No way.
We had
Nice.
We had a couple kids that were like on the bubble.
Yeah.
And I would one of the instructors was one of my snipers in Afghanistan.
Oh God. Okay.
So they were like,
helps.
oh, we're going to do the stalk brief, and I'm like, make sure. I said, and Billy was his name. I said, make sure Billy's on the truck. Like, why is that? I said, because I'm coming right up the middle and I'm wearing my Smoky hat. And all the instructors are like, there's no way a student just shit talked a fucking instructor. And I've already been a hat, a platoon sergeant, and all that.
And you've already passed some stalks, I assume?
Yeah, I've already passed some. I'm all I have to do is what they say is fall off the truck.
Yeah.
I just have to fall off the truck.
So you're home.
I'm home. And they're like, no way he just called you out. And we got to the, our site. We're getting vegged up and getting ready to take off. And I look at the guys. I'm like, one of you goes left, one of you goes right, and I'm going up the middle. Because that's what I told them the day before.
Yeah.
And I'm Smoky on. And I get up there.
Did you veg up your Smoky?
Fuck no.
Oh, yes.
I get up. I go right up the middle. And I take my shot. And they're like, Walker, get within 10. And my primary was the Walker, Bill Townsend. And he's like, within 10. And I'm like, for sure they're going to bust me. And he starts trying to walk him on me. Doesn't get him on me. He's like, have shooter take second shot. He's like, take 5 steps forward, 3 steps to your right, touch the shooter. He's like, nope. He's like, identify the shooter. He's like, reaching down, touching the top of Smokey the Bear.
Oh, boy.
I stood up, gave him the perk, and melted back down, and I crawled off. And we had one more stalk after that, and they're like, okay, stalk brief today. And they're like, we're going to have this instructor and that instructor. I'm like, what, is Billy afraid to get back up on the truck? And they're like, no fucking way. So we did the same thing the next day, and I think I probably helped a couple dudes graduate.
Because he was looking for you
hunting
so
for
hard.
me, and I told him I'm coming up the middle both times.
Did you get the second one?
I did. I got 100 on both of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
now, was it just because of your 3D breakup that took your hat away?
I put enough layers in front of me in the truck.
So you had multiple windows.
Multiple windows.
Yeah,
multiple layers. And just bled through just burned through the veg and got through there. Really proud and happy to be part of that, to be a sniper. I mean, it was a tough school, man. I mean, that's something to beat your chest on. So you got get your ass kicked, and I go back, and I remember we did our first battalion run. I had a 96, and we did a battalion run in River Road, Camp Lejeune. Yeah. I didn't even sweat. I was like, fuck, man. It just didn't. It was just like, wow. Yeah. Body was just wore out, and I didn't even break a sweat doing the runs.
Because you guys are getting torched up and down the ranges and everything, right?
Constantly. Yeah. Constantly. But you use some of your salt and your wisdom, I guess, to protect guys. Like, I could tell when they were coming up to play games, and I would look at the other students. I'm like, look, they're going to come up and try to fuck with us. I said, let me preempt them. And I would act like a fucking angry drill instructor.
And then now they're on you.
I'd flip a fucking table. I'd be like, "Now get the fuck outside." I'm like, "Sergeant, you need anything else?" He's like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, just get him down to the range."
Yeah.
And I'm running with a bunch of corporals and lance corporals, a couple of sergeants. I'm like, you know, I made the instructor uncomfortable because they think I'm mad. And I'm like, I'm a fucking student, man. Yeah. You know, and so it was cool.
Yeah, but they knew who you were.
Yeah.
Via your old recruit, sniper leader, right?
Well, they knew that, and plus one of the guys on the cadre at sniper school was the sniper team leader supporting me in Afghanistan.
Right. So they probably had heard who you were, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to see this guy pissed off.
Yeah, and it worked out, man. So
not gonna fuck with him.
Took a platoon to Fallujah Peninsula, Habbiniyah. Yep. Did a 7-month deployment there.
That's 3-2, right?
3-6.
Oh, that was 3-6 as well to Habbiniyah.
Yeah. And we were on the Fallujah Peninsula. Did some good work there. Rough deployment. I was starting to gas a little bit. Like I could tell, like, man, 3 of these in a row as a platoon sergeant. And wrapped that up.
You had your kids at that point or no?
Yeah, I've got my 2 oldest daughters at that point.
How can you just speak to that a little bit? I never deployed with children.
That was 07, so one of them was 10, and then the other one would have been 5 or 6. So, you know, trying to relearn your family. I mean,
do you compartmentalize it when you're gone? Do you turn that off, or is it?
It's always in your mind. I will tell you the hardest things that I ever think I had to do was, and you've done this yourself. It's gathering at the parking lot down at the regimental CP on River Road. Yeah. Those were because you knew what was at stake during the time. Yeah. There's a chance that I don't get off this bus in this parking lot 6-7 months from now. Yeah. Either alive or maybe I'm missing a fucking leg.
Mangled. Yep.
And that was always there, right? Yeah. So you think about that, right? And you think you've got a natural instinct and desire to provide and protect and take care of your family, and to leave all those times and have to do that it's tough, man. Yeah. But it's you don't know what you don't know. But I know I kicked ass as a staff sergeant. I can make it to Gunny. I can do better for my family here. I'm a little closer to making a full run of this thing, and you just try to, you know, I'm getting combat pay. I'm getting big bucks. I'm getting a little combat pay. Get an extra whatever, you know, $100 a month. So you get through that, and you come home, and I think you think you're yourself. You try to be yourself, but there's pieces of you. The best I've heard it explained is like the comedian George Carlin. Mm-hmm. You know how they used to call it shell shock, battle fatigue, and then we've settled on PTSD. Call it what you want. Battle fatigue really resonates with me. Yeah, right? That's what it is. Yeah, your nervous system can't stay wound that long. I mean, months. I mean, I never unwound from being a hat. How do you unwound that? That's a high stress environment. Yeah. And then you go to kinetic combat and man, wow. So caught a little bit of a breather, got to unwind, got to learn and know who my family was, and then I got promoted to gunny right as we came home. You know, got some orders, and then ended up coming back to the grunts. I went to 3-2 as a company gunny. Yep. And spent a year there, and that was good. I was in 3-2, and they were chopped. They were prepped to go to Afghanistan, and I remember the sergeant major and the colonel was like, "Hey, if you don't get selected, you're probably going to go over to the sniper platoon." And I'm like, "Okay." Luckily, I got selected, and I went to school. The unit went to Afghanistan, and when they got back from Afghanistan, there were 3 battalions open in Lejeune, and I got 4 battalions open at Lejeune, and I got 3-2. And some other gunner peers were like, "Hey." And it was always, you know, I always wanted to be a gunner. I thought that's where my talents took me. Yeah. I'm like, okay, with my experience, I no longer have a first sergeant, and I didn't have any beef with my captains. I love them, so this isn't a slight at them. But I no longer had a first sergeant or a captain in my way to solve a fucking problem. Yep. Right? I felt like I knew the answer, and I don't need you to bless me to go do the right. I just, get the fuck out of my way. Yep. Problem solved. Like, I want that instant. Boom.
Did it work like that?
Once I became a gunner, absolutely.
You just finished it. Yeah. This is what I'm doing.
This is what I'm doing, right? Yep, and don't wait around for the boss to ever tell you anything. Right. So get selected, go to school, and I come back and I'm the gunner for 3-2. Inherited the pissing incident, which was a challenge. But I appreciated that the gunner could operate independently and kind of be the chaplain of training, right? Mm-hmm, I mean, you're the quality control guy for that unit. is the way I try to explain it to people that are civilians. Like,
Yep.
you know, I'm able to go into the boss and say, hey, this is what I think we're doing really good at. These are some things I think we need to work on. But through the lens of this is a people business. And coming out of all, you know, combat deployments, I was like, man, I see us do such a shitty job with the human capital that we have with our people. We do such a bad job. I want people to be happy to be there. I want people to fight with a happy heart. I want Marines to, whether it's 4 years or 40 years, I want them to look back and go, man, I had a really good time. This was great. I met the best people in my life. I want them to feel good about being Marines. And inheriting the pissing incident, I had a unit where everybody was guilty because of that. And I, you know, hindsight, I could give a shit that those snipers pissed on dead bodies.
Me either.
I don't care. I know some of those men, and those men are good men. You know, pissing on a dead body, maybe not a good idea, but who cares?
Yeah, recording it, not a good idea.
Not a good idea, right?
If you look back in history of what our enemies of our nation have done to disembowel our bodies and cut dudes' dicks off and put them in their own.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And then you're going to get mad.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. We're supposed to be better than them. But if you haven't been there and watched somebody take your buddy's life away and then you catch them later, then you shouldn't be able to weigh in on a situation.
Yeah. So we go through all this, right? And they come home, and I'm out on the range with a bunch of new lieutenants, and some of the carryover guys from the sniper platoon come to me and they're like, Gunner, we need you to see this. And they showed me the videos. Popped on YouTube. I'm like, okay, so this hit me in the face as a brand new gunner. Took all the snipers. I'm like, hey, get in the duty van. Go back to the battalion. I know this is going to be a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Right. So they go back and they do that. But I'm not going to belabor that story. It's not my story to tell.
Yeah. The amazing thing is how many other Marines they put on hold for orders until that investigation was over to me.
Well, yeah. I think what shaped me, you know, waypoints in our life. And I don't like to refer to my time as a Marine as a career. I like to refer to it as a profession. I think when you start putting your career ahead of people, it becomes a fucking career.
Yep.
That's why you have like a fucking sergeant major wearing a fraudulent combat action ribbon and a Purple Heart. Fucking moron.
Yep.
Career. Don't worry about your career. Worry about your men. Worry about your profession.
Marines write your fit reps.
Right.
Yep.
Marines write your fit reps.
Yeah.
So that happens, and I have a command team, and you know, maybe it was what they thought was right. But they never lifted the yoke off the battalion for the following deployment. And somewhere along the line, I've got captains, majors, E8s, E9s. E8s, not E9s, the master guns in particular. Gunnies. Everybody was beat down because everybody was guilty because of that. And I finally told the boss, I'm like, man, you got to lift the yoke off of these guys. Not everybody's guilty of this. And I remember one instance, I went down to a weapons company, and I had a kid riding the pine. He was sitting on the first sergeant's ready bench, which I think is stupid anyway. Like, it's like, oh, the first sergeant has a bench, like we're in fucking elementary
stupid.
for somebody that's been in trouble.
Seems demeaning to me.
Yeah, and there's 3 drug pops, and there's I remember this kid's name, Corporal Estel. He was a sniper with a Bronze Star with a V. Now, if a corporal in the Marine Corps has a Bronze Star with a V, if he was in any other service, it'd be a fucking service cross.
Yep.
And he's riding the pine with these drug pops, and I go downstairs, and like a good Marine NCO, right? Raw gunner, stood up. I'm like, hey, stud. I said, go stand outside for a minute. And I look at the fucking first sergeant. I'm like, what's this all about? And he's like, sir. I'm like, fucking, don't come at a gunner with some fucking...
First sergeant?
Yeah, don't come at me like I'm some fucking second lieutenant, man. And I give him the business. I said, when you're ready to treat that fucking warrior like he deserves, you can come up to my office and get him. I said, as a matter of fact, send your company commander.
You took him up there with you?
Took him up there with me. And the CEO was like, Gunner, what's going on? And I'm like, no. I said, this is a problem. And what I noticed was I started to go back to my MO kind of as a platoon sergeant, like taking care of guys and being their shield. And it's disappointing when we lose our way with the human dimension of what we do here in the Marine Corps. Like, you look at World War I and II and float books, you see all the guys with their covers kicked on sideways, and they're smiling.
Yep, they're happy.
They're happy. They're brothers. Somewhere we've lost that. And it's stay off the grass, cover down on a line. We're not all the fucking same.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we act collectively. It's okay to have some individuality. You don't lump in a fucking a decorated war hero with 3 drug pops.
No.
So what I found is I'm never going to break unity of command and go out and like ever try to do anything to demean or make the sergeant major or the battalion commander or make a company commander look like a fool. But underneath of that, you can bet your ass I'm going to make Marines feel good about being infantrymen. I'm going to make them feel good about learning their craft. I'm going to make them feel good about the mission. I'm going to put them in a position to where they're fighting with a happy heart. And I think I learned that as a newer gunner. And by the time I'd left that place, 3-2 was pretty fucking awesome. Got a great guy, Tim Pallage, that came in as the battalion commander. Loved working as his gunner. And we sent like 55 groups of dudes to SOI for like advanced school, like Squad Leader School, advanced machine guns. We were the honor grad at 50 of them. We did the 2014 Super Squad. And I remember the division gunner, all the regimental gunners. I was the gunner at 3-2, and they're like, hey, can you come out here for a second? I'm like, sure. They had just done their movement to the field, and they had just wrapped up the first day, and it was all the marksmanship stuff, UKD, all the little things. And I'd helped set their schedule, taught them what they needed to do, had their company staff ready to go. Took a sergeant that had been in trouble, and he was dual-hatting as their platoon sergeant and their platoon commander. And I wanted to get him to be able to stay in the Marine Corps. And the guy's a master sergeant now, right? Great Marine. Got them set up, and the division gunner looks at me, he goes, hey, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've statistically won already.
In the first day.
I'm like, what do you mean? There's 3 days. He goes, you've statistically won. They won the PFT, they won the CFT, they won the movement to the range, and their marksmanship skills doubled everybody else.
Boom.
And it all went back to doing simple things well, continuing actions, taking care of guys, doing the simple things, and wow, man. And that capped that off. From there, it was my 4 years in 3-2 were done. And I remember I did a handover with the incoming gunner, and we were at 29 Palms, so we high-fived halfway through ITX.
Okay.
And I remember walking to the bleachers, and the bleachers, it was every 03 NCO in the battalion was in the bleachers. And I was like, these are my guys. I said, I need you guys to trust the, like, what a, right? Right? I mean, for the gunner,
yeah.
You know, and then we get home and we went to like fucking Swanix, like the fucking NCOs took me out and got me shit-faced. I called the boss the next day, and he's like, where you been? I said, the NCOs took me out and got me fucked up last night. I said, you're going to charge me for you. He goes, wait a second. He goes, the fucking NCOs took you out last night. He goes, yeah. And I was like, he's like, fuck, that's pretty fucking awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty fucking cool. Yeah. And, you know, we did a hell and farewell after that. And I remember one of the nicest things a commander's ever said. He goes, we're not here without him.
Yeah.
And to watch it go from Marines getting treated like shit, and there's no combat involved in any of this. We did some MU stuff, and but to watch a Marine unit turn around and have its pride back, and to have a big piece of that, man, I'll carry that with me forever. So to watch that unit, and now I still see some of these guys. A lot of those guys, MECEPT, that are killing it. A lot of them are gunners, went on to be E8s, E9s, great guys. I mean, great special units. So, you know, and after that, I found myself, it was interesting. Division gunner comes to me, and he's like, hey, you're supposed to get orders to Cherry Point. Do you want to go to Second Recon? Because there's a rifle range there. And he goes, do you want to go to Second Recon? I'm like, yes.
Yep.
Yes. And I knew some of the ops chiefs over there, and he's like, you're a hog, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, you're like a dirty cousin. You'll fit in great out there. And I ended up at Recon, and just integrated with those guys, had a really good time, built a lot of great relationships, and that's where things kind of, you know, got opportunities to maybe fix some service level stuff. The Recon community was like, hey, why don't we have a Carl Gustav? And I'm playing dumb. I'm like, who's Carl Gustav? And they're like, I'm like, I know what a Carl Gustav is, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah. And
but I said, let me be your gunner and let me go dig on it. I went over to MARSOC. They had the old Carl Gustav, but then I looked at all the ammo this thing shot.
Yeah.
HEDP, heat, smoke, alume, you know, anti-structure munition, all this stuff, and I'm like, it's criminal. And I start thinking of all the times in combat that I could have had a gun that did this.
Sure.
I wouldn't have had to wait on a 60. I wouldn't have had to fucking miss a shot with a fucking wall. I would have had something. Man, this thing is the bee's fucking knees, man. Yes. I'm like, man, but that gun weighs 22 pounds. So I call Saab. And I said, hey, I like this thing, but the weight, they're like, you're in luck. We're making a 14.7 pound gun. I'm like, great. So we end up putting together a needs statement. So I write the initial needs statement to get Carl Gustav in the Marine Corps while I'm at Second Recon. So I spend my time at Second Recon, just shy of 2 years, end up over at LAR, which ends up being my last stop. So I carried that work with me to LAR. I was the spearhead for the division to get us Carl Gustav. Chris Wade said, hey, Gunner Wade, he said, look, this was your idea, this was your baby. I want you to take what you've done for Second Recon, and I want you to rewrite this to where this goes to the engineer, the scout, and the 0311. And I want you to, and I said, well, while I'm at it, I said, we probably need to make this a squad weapon. He goes, absolutely. Because we knew the 51 was going away. And, you know, while we make AT4, I think AT4 is great. I think it goes on a poster, a vehicle, and it's a great disposable system.
Sure.
The law, whatever. I mean, it goes 150 yards, hits 1 out of 3 shots.
I like the law.
Well, a lot of guys do. But
It's lighter.
It's lighter and easy to carry. That's what every grunt says. You know
It's
what
lighter
you know,
and it's more compact.
You know what I tell guys? I'm like, come to me with something else other than light and easy to carry. That's right. See, that's what they come back with. So,
I know.
So anyway, this isn't about me beating up the law, but and then we had the small, which is a ginormous piece of shit.
Yep.
Right. So I'm like, we need one gun that does everything well. So I rewrite the needs statement. I go to and then everybody's like, wow, this is getting some traction. So we had 3 general officers sign our needs statement.
Yep.
So people can't ignore it.
Yep.
And then I've got people at like Quantico that are like the SysCom, the people that cut the checks, right? No, I love SysCom now. I love Systems Command. I love CD&I, all the people up there that help get the combat capability out to people. No beef, no rub. 2015, that was a different fucking story. 2016, I did not like those people. Because what happens is in the money world of the government is they defend programs, not capabilities. That's why, you know, you see things that stick around for a long time. It's because nobody's picked up and championed the fight for a better coffee cup. Nobody's picked up and championed the fight for a better sling, a better this, a better that. I just happened to champion the rocket, and I personally was not going to let that die.
Yeah, that was your baby.
That was my baby. So what this ended up happening is the Close Combat Lethality Task Force had given money to the Marine Corps, so on and so forth, and money to fund that gun. So the Commandant wanted a shoot-off. And
Between what?
That and the small.
Okay.
So I go up to Quantico, and General Bedreau is the division commander at the time, and he goes, hey, you're our representative. I'm sending you to Quantico to this shoot-off, and here's my number. Call me if you have any problems. So I show up on the range, and there's this civilian guy, and he's like, well, I don't see your name on the list. I said, well, I'm here to represent the 2nd Marine Division. And he goes, well, I can't let you on the range. I said, I'm a Marine fucking gunner. We'll be on the range. He goes, well, I can't let you on the range. I'm like, here, you can call my CG and tell him I'm not allowed on the range.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on in. Onto the range I go. So I get on the range. We're doing our thing. And here comes the Commandant. Here comes a big line of black Suburbans. Commandant, General Miller comes out, you know, looking all grumpy. And the senior sergeants majors and the colonels and the 1-3 star that's with him. And I remember there's just a pile of them. They gather around. I had a raider who had used it that was up there as my demo guy. Had a Marine raider up there. And we're talking about the system and the rounds, and automatically this one sergeant major starts trying to snipe me and another gunner in front of the Commandant. And I'm like, again, I respect the office of a sergeant major. I don't want to cause any issues, but this dude ain't backing off. I'm like, okay. He goes, why do I need this when I can obscure with 40 millimeter from a 203? And the other gunner that's with me, Johnny Costa's like, hey, Sergeant Major. He goes, it's a squad marking device. It's not for obscuration. Yeah. And then he's like, and for fire support, I can use the handheld 60 and the assault. I'm like, you ever seen first round effects on a handheld 60? I said, you know what a charge 160 does compared to that thing with built, you know, enclosing with the enemy? I start talking about sheaths and all kinds of shit, and I just start handing him his ass.
Just going way over.
I'm just crushing him. And Neller's finally like, okay. He goes, you came to work today, didn't you? So that's what you pay Marine gunners to do. I said, you're absolutely right. And we go through this rigmarole of, you know, of back and forth. And then I got the 3-star pipes up. And he's like, well, you know, we go with what we know. I said, General, I'm glad you said that. I said, 'cause you know what we did with our smalls in combat? We packed them away in a fucking Amtrak because they don't fucking hit anything. And then Carl Gustav went out there and it did what it did.
Fucking smoked them.
It fucking smoked them. And right before that, we had the Gunner Symposium. And I had a couple Marine gunners in there. A lot of the older gunners that they're like rockets in the squad. We're going to talk about rockets in the squad. And all the younger gunners look over at me. And they're like, are you ready? I'm like, absolutely, I'm ready. And the older gunners are like, well, small too. And I'm like, whew. And they're like, go ahead, JC. And I just start fucking slaying it. And this one old gunner's like, he goes, well, we're loyal to the guy that sells the other system. This is long before I ever dreamed I'd have a job with these guys. I said, I'm loyal to the fucking infantryman.
Yeah.
And all my buddies were like, and like, whoa. I'm like, no, time the fuck out, man.
Like, how do you argue that?
I was like, time the fuck out. All these CW2s and 3s back here in the cheap seats that have 1,500 combat patrols while you got a complimentary Bronze Star for setting on a fucking fob.
You say that?
I sure as fuck did.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I fucking laid it on the fucking table, and buddy, you could have heard a pin drop.
I bet.
And one of the good fives was like, JC, settle down. I said, no, fuck that. I said, that's why we're fucking broken. I said, clearly that's better for the infantrymen. You'll get gunners that'll get in here, and look, I love gunners. But guys, we're talking about relationships and money. My job as a Marine gunner is to tell a commander the truth. What is best for the Lance Corporal and the Second Lieutenant? Right there it sits. Yep. And I laid the gauntlet down, and I think that really did it, man. I made my stand, and I go to LAR. I do my business there. Commandant comes out about 9 months before I retire, and he says, hey, I concur with the needs statement out of the 2nd Marine Division, and we are going to get Carl Gustav, and not only are we going to get it, we are going to get it and put it down at the squad level. And that's why we have 1,500 Carl Gustavs today. So, my victory was there, man. It was won. And not only that, the Marine Corps got a 9-round suite that mirrors what SOCOM has. So the U.S. Army has 3 rounds, the Marine Corps has 9. So we've invested in that thing, and, man, so glad that we did.
Yeah.
So I wrapped up my time at LAR, was going to move home and be a school teacher. And as soon as I moved home to West by God, Virginia, the Swedes reached out like, hey, man, we want you to be our... The Swedes reached out and they said, hey, we want you to be our guy. Yeah. And I've been with them now for 7 years. So I've got to extend my life as a Marine via what we sell. And I don't have to lie about the stuff. I mean, it sells itself. I mean... I've got HE Airburst out, had a great 22-year run as a Marine. Blessed, thankful, couldn't have been happier with my service, to be able to go out and do this and bring that gun to the people has been great, man. Yeah. I'm glad that our next generation that goes downrange will have that. It answers everything. It's doing. Our Rangers have enjoyed it for a long time. SOCOM's enjoyed it. Our family of ammunition is doing work over in the Ukraine. It's a great gun. Yeah. Then we've got our AT4, which has gotten better. It's a confined space. You can shoot it from inside something about the size of a jail cell. Yep. We're going to have red dots on it in the future. So instead of the old shitty plastic sights,
you got something to
actually. You got a disposable red dot that gets zeroed at the factory that comes on the gun. And we also have a disposable tank killer called an in-law. Okay. It's a top-down attack. Great disposable system. Can teach in about 2 hours. So we don't make junk. Yeah. So to be able to get out and talk about stuff like this and show Marines what's in the realm of possible and things that they can take onto the battlefield, man, I got the best fucking job in the world, man.
Hey, they said find a job that you love and you'll never work a day, right?
Yeah, and I don't.
I'm lucky in the same fashion.
We're going to get wrapped up here. I'm going to go over to the School of Infantry and talk to guys about. I don't like to use the words mission accomplishment, troop welfare. It's lethality and survivability.
Yes, sir.
They're the same thing.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's what I'm teaching over there.
I'm going to kill you.
Kill you.
And I'm going to keep you alive. And that's what that does. Yep. And the message has always been quick in the kill chain. I want a corporal to call with a BDA. I don't want a corporal to have to call and ask.
Yep.
It's done. I got 3 dead bad guys in a poppy field. Oh, no, that's 2 dead bad guys, and one's crawling around out there that's blown into pieces. Because I had that. Yep. Couldn't do that with a law.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait for a 60 to do it. There's your answer. So
fucking love it, dude.
Yeah, man. So I'm whole, man. I mean, I'm grateful for it. Life's good. I get to get out and visit with Marines and spend time with them. Just did a range yesterday. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Semper Fi, man. I mean,
Semper fucking Fi.
Yeah, life's good, man.
Yeah, man. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to cover?
Be good to people,
yeah.
Right? I guess it's overarching, right? Like I don't, just be good to people. past year, I think I've seen a lot, particularly dealing with like Marines and around Marines and industry. Putting your personal capital on people, even when you get it wrong occasionally, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to have a perfect batting average. Mm-hmm. But more times than not, when I open my mouth in the name of helping somebody, I wouldn't take that back.
Yeah.
Even if it's cost me a little bit, right?
Yep.
Go to bat for people. Be a good dude. Don't get emotional, but be passionate, right? Take care of people. And if you're in a position to help people, help people. And, you know, you probably see this a little bit on social media from me. A buddy of mine used this phrase, and it stuck with me. Proficiency is the coin of the realm. If you know what you're doing, you get to be you. Mm-hmm. Seen a lot of officers, a lot of senior enlisteds that use the officer. Oh, he's a better staff officer. He's nerdy, he's quirky, he's all in the books. What you just told me is that dude can't command for shit. Mm-hmm. Oh, senior enlisted, he's all about disciplines and standards. Chances are that officer and that senior enlisted are that way because it's all they got. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you know what you're doing, you get to be you.
I like it.
You get to be you. So proficiency is the coin of the realm. Know what you're talking about. If you know what you're doing through experience, through education, through whatever has caused you to gain that, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I get to be me. I don't, you know, people meet you, oh, you wear a hat. Oh, you don't act like it. Well, no shit, because I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? You get to be yourself. So grateful for that. So I guess if I could give any advice of, you know, if you're a platoon sergeant out there right now and you think just because you left the drill field, that's who you are, or you're soft because you were a recruiter, you need to step up and be meaner, right? Or you just want to seem like you're more intellectual, so I'm going to withdraw socially and personally from my Marines, and I'm going to be in the books. Mm-hmm. No. Know what you're doing, know what's at stake, and make that important to you, right?
Absolutely.
If you've made that your MO from second lieutenant to from Lance Corporal on up to second lieutenant, wherever you find yourself in life, whatever your trade or your field of endeavor is, man, you know, own that, and it allows you to be you. So I don't never have to go in front of anybody, never have to tell bullshit, never have to be just go be you, man. That's it, man.
Hell yeah.
Proficiency's coin of the realm, brother.
Coin of the realm.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I appreciate you a great deal, maybe even more than you know.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, 100%.
Thank you for having me.
100%. I appreciate your time, your candor. I appreciate your transparency with some of the stories. A lot of people don't talk about their childhood in open format the way you did, especially with some of the things you went through. So I do appreciate that, and I'm 100% confident this is going to help people, regardless of where they are in the come up. So, all right, guys, that's Choices, Not Chances this time. We appreciate you guys stopping in. And if you've seen anything from this podcast that resonates with you, that you know need to be shared out, don't be selfish with the information, and we'll be stronger together. The man, the myth, the legend, JC Knight.
That's a stretch. Keep it on the sunny side out there.
Much appreciated, buddy. Yep. Until next time, guys, Choices, Not Chances, signing off.